This video will be about Freemasonry and the early nation of Islam. So first of all, the Freemason Shriners are mentioned in the Supreme Wisdom. They're referred to as Muslim sons. And interestingly enough, the Shriners are actually part of the 5%. Okay, so who is the 5% in the poor part of the earth? At the end of the answer, it says also known as Muslim and Muslim sons. Now, Elijah Muhammad said, and the video you can find is on Alam Khan's channel. The link is at the very bottom there. Elijah Muhammad said, quote, "There is some white Muslims here in the country. I have several letters from white Muslims, but they don't teach you Islam. It is a religion that the white people don't teach the black man. They know it is a whole world. It's not an organization, it's a world, but they don't teach you. They commercialize on it. They take it and use it in higher masonry, they call it. And there they commercialize on the religion. They say they are Muslims, Shriners. They make a mock of the religion and they commercialize on it. They sell it to you. So who are the Shriners? The very left you have Douglas, that's Buzz Aldrin, and then you have Gerald Ford, the president. You have Canadian Prime Minister Diefenbaker. You have General Douglas MacArthur. After that, you have President Truman, and then at the very end, you have the infamous FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. So the Shriners' technical name is the Ancient Arabic Order of Nobles of the Mystic Shrine. They're colloquially known as Shriners. This is an American Masonic society founded in 1872. And every Shriner is a Mason, but not every Mason is a Shriner. So basically, the Shriners are a sub-fraternity within the Freemasons. And they specifically take on this Middle Eastern, Orientalist, cartoony appearance. And so you see the fezzes that they're wearing. And in the past, you had to be a 32-degree Scottish Rite Mason in order to become a Shriner. Nowadays, any Freemason can be a Shriner, but in those days, yes, you had to kind of make it to the top. In other words, study for a very long time. The Supreme Wisdom says 35 to 50 years. This is kind of a rough estimate, but yes, this was an elite order that could have taken years or decades to join. And the Shriners' founding myth is that they were an order established by Ali ibn Abi Talib. Those of you who know about Islam, Ali is the first Imam in Shia Islam. He's the fourth Caliph in Sunni Islam, and he is the cousin and the son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so the myth says that Ali founded the order to punish criminals that escape justice. It's kind of like a vigilante order, hence the sword at the top. And so, of course, in reality, this is just a myth. The Shriners were founded in 1872 by Walter M. Fleming and William J. Florence. This was after Florence went to France and he went to a party that was organized by an Arab diplomat. And supposedly at the end of the party, he was inducted, or everybody in the party was inducted into some secret order. Then he came back to the US and he wanted to create this new fraternity within the Freemasons, which stressed fun and fellowship. And so they had a base of operation in New York called the Mecca Temple, which is currently the New York City Center in Midtown Manhattan. In the Supreme Wisdom, there's also the question, number 17, how many Muslim sons are there in North America? And the answer is approximately 3 million. Now, this is actually based on the membership, total US Masonic membership since 1924. We could see in the 1930s that it was roughly 3 million. So here, Muslim son is being referred to, is being used to refer to Freemasons in general. There is a posthumous book published where it gathers everything Elijah Muhammad said about the secrets of Freemasonry, which you can find online. In the autobiography of Malcolm X, page 107, there's a part where Malcolm X says that, look, there's 360 degrees in a circle or in a square. The Masons only go up to 33 degrees. He says, quote, but for me, the answer was that Masonry actually is only 33 degrees of the religion of Islam, which is the full projection, forever denied to Masons, although they know it exists. So, in other words, Islam is what is beyond the 32nd or 33rd degree, according to Malcolm X. In this lecture by Mother Tainetta, of course, Mother Tainetta was the wife or mistress of Elijah Muhammad. And she says in this lecture, quote, Master Farad Muhammad had an ongoing link to the, quote, Muslim sons at that time that he came in 1930. And the sign of it is that he spoke with the then President Hoover. And Hubert Hoover attended the opening of the Arlington portion of Washington's Museum and Archives. Crossing over the Potomac, you get into Virginia, and he was a full-blown Mason, and he was a Shriner. So you can see that there's this claim, at least according to Tainetta. Tainetta never met Master Farad Muhammad, but maybe she's getting this from Elijah Muhammad, that Master Farad Muhammad apparently met Hoover, President Hoover, and that Hoover was a Freemason. This is from the Bainon article. Yes, this is from the 1938 Bainon article. It says that Master Farad Muhammad introduced his followers to, quote, a miscellaneous collection of books on Freemasonry and its symbolism. So apparently, Master Farad Muhammad is introducing Freemasonry to his followers, or at least you can say reveal the secrets of Freemasonry to his early followers. In the Hatem Sahib thesis, which was written in 1951, he claims that Elijah Muhammad, prior to joining the religion of Master Farad Muhammad, was himself a Freemason. He says, quote, before he met Farad, Elijah Poole was not affiliated with any movement or organization except the Masonic movement, which he joined in 1924 when he came to Detroit. He was a member in this movement until his attachment to Farad in 1931. I'm wondering, is this the only source for Elijah Muhammad joining the Freemasons? Does anyone else here know of a source? If so, please put in the comments below. Also, in the Hatem Sahib thesis, there's a claim that most of the followers were Freemasons in that early nation of Islam. So he says, quote, generally speaking, all the followers who were above 25 years of age claimed that they were Masonic. So clearly there were a lot of Freemasons, Black Masons that joined the Nation of Islam. He also says that in the speech of the minister, this is in, again, 1950, 1951, says, quote, Truman carries it himself, meaning the national, the flag, because he knows how sacred the national is. Then he claims that Islam is the religion of all superior men in the world. Truman and most of the senators are Muslims. Masons are Muslims. And we do know that Truman did wear a fez with a crescent and a star, and it was a red fez. So, yeah, technically he was wearing the flag of the Nation of Islam, whether he knew it or not. And it is true that many of these elite men were Shriners, okay? In other words, Muslim sons. In the book of Matthias Gardell, the book is called In the Name of Elijah Muhammad, Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. Matthias Gardell dedicates a section to highlighting the Masonic influences first in Noble Drew Ali's movement, the Moorish Science Temple. So, for example, Freemasons and Moors believe in a secret Gnostic truth that is being passed on, and that with that knowledge, that esoteric knowledge, they can uplift themselves. And this is very similar to what the Nation of Islam also believes. The Circle 7 Quran also has Jesus climbing up a 12-step ladder while carrying a compass, a square, and an axe. These are all important symbols in Freemasonry. Now, the Shriners, the Moorish Americans, and even Master Farad in the early Nation of Islam, they would wear those red Turkish fezzes. And according to John Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad used to visit the Moorish Americans. It's unclear whether he was saying that was in the 20s or 30s or after. He doesn't clarify. Bainon, 1938, writes that some NOI adherents were Moorish Americans after the collapse of Marcus Garvey's movement and before the coming of W.D. Farad. Gardell also argues that both the Freemasons and the Nation of Islam believe that man is a fallen god and that humanity is rising into divine perfection. You can find Matthias Gardell's book, In the Name of Elijah Muhammad, Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam, and you could check out pages 148 to 149. Dr. Patrick Bowen hypothesizes that Farad's, quote, black and brown germs idea, that Yaqub brought or manifested the brown germ in order to create the white race. He says that that may have been influenced by the works of Milton A. Pottinger, who died in 1936. And the book is called Three Master Masons and Symbolism, a treatise on the soul of things, where Pottinger writes of white and black atoms, which were positive and negative. So that could be, I don't know, but this is Dr. Bowen's hypothesis. You can also look at Dr. Michael Muhammad Knight's book, The Supreme Wisdom Lessons, A Scripture of American Islam. Highly recommend that you guys check out that book. But he first notes that the question answer structure of the Supreme Wisdom does resemble the degrees and the secret rituals of the Freemasons and the initiatory text of the Freemasons. Now, I think the question answer thing was fairly common in other occult societies at that time. So I found some theosophical books, for example, which also had the question answer structure like the Supreme Wisdom. So you could check out the book The Coming World Teacher by P. Pavri. It also is question answer based, and a lot of education was that way in the 30s and 20s and such. But according to Knight, there is this infamous 10th degree in the Supreme Wisdom. This is the one about bringing four devils. In some versions, like in the newspapers in 1932, it says the bringing of the heads of four devils. And he says that that resembles degrees in Scottish Rite Masonry, which speak on the tomb of, quote, our brother Hiram Abiff and the initiate presenting three heads to Solomon. There's another eerie similarity, which, just as Elijah Muhammad claimed that one can pay the Muslims of Jerusalem to see the embalmed remains of Jesus, Elijah Muhammad did say that. Albert C. Stevens' Cyclopedia of Fraternities, published in 1899, describes Turks charging a high fee to Christian pilgrims who wish to see Jesus' tomb. Of course, we know that no such tomb of Jesus embalmed and surrounded by glass exists in Jerusalem today. And likewise, I mean, Elijah Muhammad in the Table Talks mentions that you can go see Muhammad, I'm assuming Prophet Muhammad, in Mecca, and that his tomb is there. But that is not true. His tomb is actually in Medina, and you wouldn't be able to see him. He'd be buried underground, of course. Now, the Shriner initiation ceremony, popularly known as the crossing the hot sands, it very closely resembles the Nation of Islam story of whites being caught by Muslims and driven across the Arabian desert, trapping them in the caves and hillsides of Europe. So there's a similar mythology there. Now, was Master Farad Muhammad a Freemason? There is no direct evidence that Master Farad Muhammad was a Freemason. There's no evidence that he was a Shriner. He was, however, intimately involved with a member of the Eastern Star. Okay, so the Eastern Star is the female Masonic appendant body, and specifically in 1914, he would be involved with a Laura Swanson, who you can see on the right. Her name would also be Laura Ethel Messenger. Interestingly, Messenger, right? Isn't that interesting? So at that time, Farad was known as Fred Dodd. Again, if you don't accept this, please see my video. Master Farad Muhammad was I think the video was called Wallace Ford is Wallace Farad, or Wallace Farad is Wallace Ford, something like that, where we show with pinpoint accuracy, we prove case closed that they're the same person. So if Farad is Ford, then Farad is also Fred Dodd. And Fred Dodd was charged with sexually assaulting Laura Swanson. Now, he was found not guilty, okay, but she was an active leader of the Order of the Eastern Star. Okay, so he didn't deny having relations with her. He just denied sexually assaulting her, and he was found not guilty because she didn't cry out for help. Now, she used to organize dances, and she was an elite member of the Eastern Star. And we do know that Farad also used to dance the waltz. He used to dance with a glass of water balancing on his head. Is it possible that he learned to dance the waltz while seeing Laura Swanson? Maybe. You can find out more detail on this in Finding W.D. Farad, Unveiling the Identity of the Founder of the Nation of Islam by Dr. John Andrew Morrow. Similarly, in 2025, Dr. Morrow discovered that Fred Dodd's 1915 anagram, this was an anagram that he put out in a newspaper during the Fred Dodd Oregon years. It was just a bunch of letters in a row. And when you unscramble the letters, you get a name it very closely resembles the name of Goethe. Goethe, of course, was the German literary genius and intellectual. He was a member of the Bavarian Illuminati, and he's revered by the Shriners. So it's interesting that Farad would put Goethe's name, scramble it up in the newspaper, as though it was some kind of a secret code, maybe for someone that knew what they were looking for. You can find that in our book, my book and Moro's book, W.D. Farad, The Man, Myth, and Mystery Behind the Nation of Islam. So, in conclusion, the Nation of Islam Freemason relationship is strong, but it's understudied. So, what we need are experts in Freemasonry to review the Nation of Islam material. So, they should review the Supreme Muslim lessons, as well as the books of Elijah Muhammad, as well as the lectures of Elijah and John Muhammad and Farrakhan and others, and try to note any similarities and possible influences, because we're sure that there's some that we missed, because I'm just not an expert in Freemasonry, but as you can see, where there's smoke, there's fire. Now, Farad did use many numbers in his teachings. After all, Islam is mathematics and mathematics is Islam. So this should be investigated further for potential numerological or occult significance. It's possible that researchers find Farad through another name. Maybe he was using another nickname. After all, we have over 80 aliases that he was using. So maybe there was another alias that we don't know of that he was using in Freemason circles. Um, he visited places that had very small black populations, like in Madison, Wisconsin in 1933. Maybe he was in a Freemason. In fact, the hotel he was staying at was right next to the Freemason lodge. So it's very possible that he was attending that. Um, his temple on Hastings Street was called the Allah Temple, which that's the same kind of template that we get with Mecca Temple and Nile Temple and Syria Temple that we find in the Shriner nomenclature. And while the Masons saw Islam as something to be played with and disclosed mostly to upper class circles, W.D. Farad announced a very public and very sober invitation to Islam to all Black Americans, male and female, educated and non-educated, rich and poor. His goal was not mere fellowship or fun or philanthropy, but to forge a nation strong enough to survive the War of Armageddon. Thank you for listening, and as usual, I bid you all farewell. Assalamu alaikum.